Hello everyone, this is Gorax, and today I'm gonna show you the best team for challenge boss Grishnaar. Finally, you will be able to see Ice Blast outside of Temporal Vortex, and we'll see how powerful the epic Ice Blast heroes are in the next video. In this video, we'll focus only on the best team that'll get you the most damage done. So if you're a competitive player, this video will help you to achieve higher ranks. First, let's discuss what you'll see. We will use this Psyche Core level with maxed out tier 5. You should be around this during your first week of Continental challenge. Next, let's discuss the strategy. Grishnaar will take 100% more crit damage. Well, the allies' crit damage will be increased by 100%, so we want as much crit rate on our heroes as possible. And this is why Sheena will be very valuable asset in this fight, as she grants our Ice Blast heroes crit rate. Some of the Ice Blast heroes have inherited increased crit rate as well, so this makes only sense to use them. However, each time a buff is dispelled from or blocked on enemy, allies gain one undispellable stack of 10% attack up, lasting indefinitely up to 10 stacks. So we can get up to 100% of the attack up buff if we dispel or prohibit Grishnaar from gaining buffs. So let's have a look at his skills. His passive, he takes 50% less non-crit damage. Once again, we want high crit rate. His battle skill will be cast in 9 seconds and will give him 30% attack up, 40% damage up, and defense up to buffs. We want to either prohibit or dispel them to not only deal more damage, get rid of him doing more damage, but also to benefit from the boss encounter buff. His only dangerous ability is his ultimate. He will deal lightning damage to all enemies with 100% chance of inflicting defense penalty 2 for 10 seconds. We need to mitigate that damage, as even with the best supports, we can still die. But remember, this will change in second and third week of Continental Challenge when we unlock higher Psychico. When it comes to the strategy and how the fight plays out, this is probably the simplest boss to deal with, as he's only have 2 abilities, one that you need to counter, a second that you need to mitigate. So I'll show you quickly the fight, and then I'll go over the strategy and the heroes that we use and the reasoning why with the talents and equipment, so you can learn what happens. But you can see that we dispel all the buffs that he gains with this ability. We shield our heroes from the super powerful damage. At this level, you won't be able to see how powerful this attack is, but once you get to the last minute, some of your heroes might fall, despite me having the best supports for this encounter. But we can see 2 million DPS on Beldel. She is doing the job perfectly. I will run this team without Beldel artifact for you to see how much damage she can do. I'll also add inspirations later on so you can see how powerful this team can become for those of you who can afford it. Hopefully during this fight, the Grishnaar will kill our heroes, so I can show you what you need to be aware of. But I also have a screenshot of me running this fight previously and getting to 286 million damage. Keep in mind, I'm not using any equipment enhancements, including elemental or tempering, so your damage will be higher and your team will have easier time surviving this fight, as they will have more HP, easier time building the stats they really need. There's also something that I need to mention. The artifact choice is quite important in this battle, as I will show you different artifacts and different team compositions in the video that will follow with that will include basically the free-to-play to whale journey, where you and anyone else can use the heroes that they own, even if they don't have the best heroes that I'm showing here. So the strategy here is as simple as it can be. We use Velocia to provide us extra HP via shield and damage reduction on the ultimate of Grishnaar. We use Vinyara to dispel all the buffs, provide us with shield, and apply attack penalty on the boss as well. We will use one artifact to increase our damage. Actually, 2 artifacts. And as you can see, 288 million damage, with pretty simple and achievable team for those who are veteran players and some new whales. Obviously, if you're free to play and you went all in on Beldel, this is what you can expect, and going further, more damage will be possible depending on your equipment, tempers, etc. So, let me explain why we do what we do. Those of you who have Ardref Inspiration 5 might try Ardref, which is Remain instead of Velocia. But the mandatory support here, maybe Voresh would work, but not in the way as Vinyara works, because Vinyara applies attack penalty as well. She is mandatory here because she will dispel all the buffs that the boss have and reduce his ultimate, which means he will not be able to buff himself so often. By buffing himself so often, I mean increase his damage per rotation. Now, there are 2 ways you can build Vinyara. This is my favorite because you can use Prismatic Cloak that will grant you resistance. And when you successfully resist negative effect, you have a chance of 50% applying, basically redirecting that skill to the enemy, ignoring the resistance. So Grishnaar does apply defense penalty. She can reflect defense penalty on Grishnaar. And as we know, Ice Blast damage comes from battle skills. So we will have 2 ways of applying defense penalty, more upkeep, which means more damage. If you don't have that artifact, or you don't want to spend your essence of creation on this artifact, you can use Ribcage as well. But in our best team, someone else will wear that. We will use Emissary Crown on her. Although she is timed, we still will have 10 seconds of increased damage by our allies. Once again, the damage is coming from battle skill, so it doesn't matter when we cast it. We'll still benefit from it. We will use this Wild Sun Devotion armor or glove, depending on your stats. When she grants a shield, the wearer deals 12% more damage. This is very important. And here are the talents that we're using. As you can see, this will also gives us extra 30 accuracy, because you might have issues building the hero with enough accuracy and resistance to be able to apply both debuffs, both mechanics. We also extend the debuff duration by 2 seconds, so he deals less damage. And finally, each time the hero resists a debuff, he will gain 20% shield for 5 seconds, just a damage mitigation. Our second support, and once again, this is quite important, those 2 supports will give you the best results, but in my other video, I will test other supports. So if you don't have Velocia, you will see different supports being used here as well. So with Velocia, we are not going to have Ancestral Protection set in this team. We could put Ancestral Protection on Velocia and move in this set to Shina. This will reduce our damage and increase our survivability, but since the team can survive most of the cases, I would say like 80% of the time, we don't really need to sacrifice our damage. We will use Aurelium Vest to mitigate the damage. We'll have an increased damage reduction here. The 3-year set will increase elemental damage of our heroes, and we'll use Wild Sun Devotion to grant us damage increase when we shield, and Velocia does shield a lot. We'll time her ultimate to have this 30% damage reduction. We don't really care about control immunity, but we kind of need that damage mitigation, as the boss will hit like a truck without it. And you'll see that in the specific video where we go over different teams and how they struggle to survive. The talents, more shields, less damage taken, increase when the ultimate skill recharge completes randomly dispels 1 negative effect from 1 ally. because we will have that defense down. However, it will not really work that well due to when we cast the ultimate and when it recharges. And losing or refreshing a buff restores 5% of heroes max HP, so extra healing. We build her with enlightenment. We don't really care about resistance or accuracy. She will survive. She's quite tanky with what she's got, so we're not worried about that. Beldel, obviously exclusive artifact, building her with as much crit as possible. Sadly, I don't have great equipment. Plus, if you will have elemental affinity, your crit rate will be higher, but your stat priority should be crit rate, followed by crit damage, and then attack. Okay, remember, we also get 100% increased crit damage from the boss. Remember, her passive converts crit rate into crit rate into crit damage. So that's why we build her with crit rate as much as possible. We're gonna use 4 mythics. Precise Carnage, we'll use Emperor Might, we'll use Crimson Shadow Hand, and we will use Finality's Admonition. Now, you can use the other helmet as well if you don't have Admonition with good stats, which would be the Finality, no, the Fearless Challenge, this one, right? So if you don't have that, you can change this one as well. We don't care about resistance in this team. There are some setups that will require you to have good resistance, but we'll go over those in the separate video. These are the talents that I chose on her. They work the best for me. She's dealing the most damage with them. Beldel is pretty simple. Ice Blast is pretty simple. So let's skip over to the next hero, Shina. She is our Witch's Remain applier, and you might ask me why I'm using 4 mythics, because she does a lot of damage. Okay, she is out-damaging all the epics, even when we play with the epics, well, maybe with exception of Nadja in a few instances, but she is doing really good damage with Witch's Remain and 4 mythics, so that's what we do. These are the talents that we use, and once again, we want to focus on crit rate. Remember, she does grant allies additionally 2% crit rate up to 5 stacks, which means 10% extra crit rate. So we're looking at like 90% crit rate to have the 100%. And once again, we build her with crit damage as well, and attack. She will apply Witch's Remain, but she will still do a lot of damage, and you could see that in the fight. And then we move to Zorak. Now, Zorak, usually I use Zorak with Downpipe Organ. This boosts Shina's damage. However, it does not boost Beldel's damage. She doesn't get any benefits from it. So this is why we're gonna use the Titan's Ribcage. And this increases her damage from around 1.8 million DPS to over 2 million DPS. Because when he resists the defense penalty, the team will get 50% damage increase. Everyone in the team, which means Shina as well. So while her DPS drops between Organ and Ribcage, it's not that significant. And we'll need to build Zorak with resistance, and the easier way to do it is with resistance rune, plus that gives you already 240, so get some resistance on the off pieces as well. And as you can see, we have him with 80% crit rate as well, to maximize the damage and the buff from Grishnaar when we fight him. And these are the stats. And the fight is pretty simple, as I just showed you. We're gonna use the attack aura thanks to Beldel, and we will use the shield here to help us survive longer. If Beldel would be your highest attack, and you have easy time surviving, you might consider going for Wave Breaker, which will increase your damage output as well. When it comes to the timings, we need to remember that Vinyara removes the ultimate of the boss. So I've tried multiple timings, and this one works the best. 10.5 start, I went from 9.2 up to 10.5, and I went from 19 to 20.4. This should be 20.4, but the game does that. And that's the perfect timings. The rotation is perfect, nothing gets delayed, etc. So that's what we do. We will dispel all the buffs around here. Sometimes she does not dispel all of them. Remember, that's the thing with this game. Velocia will cast her ultimate at 20 seconds. You might say, but why 20 when it's 18? Well, remember, we removed the ultimate of the boss, so that delays his skill, and 20 seconds is the sweet spot. Now, rotation of the damage dealers would be, we start with Zorak to give 30% damage up. This will work for Sheena as well. Then we cast our defense down, and we follow with Beldel. Once, remember, I said the damage from Beldel is not, well, the ultimate damage from those heroes is not the highest priority, but still having this rotation helps. And our shield will happen at 20 seconds. We're basically stuck in shields because that's the only source of the damage that the boss does. And that's pretty much it, okay? So 288 million, you saw that, easy damage done. If you use Zorak with Downpipe Organ and then use Vinyara with Ribcage, or you can put Ribcage over here, Ribcage here and the Reflection here, if you can survive the fight, you're looking at slightly lower damage, but still quite high. So the Reflect artifact is going to give you extra damage, but you might not want to spend your resources on it. So still viable composition without it. So these are the inspiration I'm able to add on the test server. So with Zorak, we're looking at extra damage here. We're looking at extra crit damage, so we can reduce crit rate on his equipment and focus more on attack and etc. We got attack and also quicker cooldown. When it comes to Sheena, she will ignore 50%, sorry, will take less damage. Then whenever it's cast, she will deal more damage up to 5 stacks. So more damage, more crit, more damage, more attack, and also ignore 50% of the target defense, which is huge. This will really increase her damage. With Vinyara, we will have an increase or duration of the debuffs that she applies. She'll have more haste, more accuracy, and ignores 35% of resistance. So we barely need any accuracy now if you have her inspired. Beldel, in our case, she will deal more damage to enemies with the shield, so it doesn't really work that well. But each time the battle skill is cast, increases the damage dealt by 2%, and it stacks 10 times, so 20%. Now, if you obviously have higher inspiration, you're only looking at more damage, especially with this as well. So Inspiration 5 Beldel will do huge damage here. I'm expecting like 350 million maybe. We'll see what we get here. And obviously Velocia, less damage taken, bigger shields, more haste, and extra HP. So let's run this for those of you who do own inspirations on heroes, so you can see the damage difference. The highest previously, 288 million. Let's see where we get now. So I could notice that we're taking way less damage now. We're at 288 million, which was previous higher score, and we still got 30 seconds on the clock. So we're looking at over 300 million now, but the highest damage increase you can have with this team is obviously Beldel's inspiration, and inspiration 5 on Beldel is huge. So that gives you around 20 million damage increase coming from all of this inspiration. So now we can see where most of the whales will be compared to those of you who have basic stats. Once again, remember, if you struggle with setting up your teams, reach out to me on Discord. I'll help you out. We can talk it one-on-one. And also just join my Discord. Overall, there's plenty of people who will be theory crafting around these teams and helping each other. Once again, thank you for watching. Stay safe. Bye.